What's up, Havelock? Welcome back to another podcast. Today, in the vein of talking about what's going on in the community that you need to know about, we have got with us Mr. Blake Larson. Blake, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. I'm glad you could come out today. We are going to talk today about the Ministerial Association, and that's what I call it as slang, but he's going to give us the actual name because not only is he the pastor at Liberty Church here in Havelock, which, by the way, is the one down here by the, what is the gas station right across the street from you?
Yeah, the Circle K.
Circle K.
You almost called it a kangaroo, didn't you?
I almost did.
I knew it.
Gosh, man.
Yeah.
I can never get the names right. The Circle K. You know, I should remember because they do that Circle K Day thing, and everyone's up there for gas.
Oh, yeah.
So it's the one down there across the highway from Food Line and across the street from Circle K. But you also are the president of the, and I'll let you do the real name because I just call it the Ministerial Group.
I don't know why you can't say it. It rolls right off the tongue. It's the Havelock Cherry Point Ministerial Association.
Right. Like everything named in a military community.
HCPMA.
Yeah, very descriptive of exactly what it is.
Right. Yeah.
So you're the president of that organization, but you've been a participant in that organization for how many years? 3 or 4? Something? A while?
Yeah. I mean, I've been a part of it since the end of 2021. That's when I stepped up from being an associate pastor at Liberty to the lead pastor. And we were coming out of COVID and trying to say, hey, do we still want to continue the organization? And we all said, yes, we do. So in the wake of that, I ended up becoming the president for now.
Okay. Well, what we want to talk about today is I'm positive that there are people in Havelock that don't know what your organization is.
Oh,
and
yeah.
You guys are incredibly impactful to the community and have been for a while, kind of quietly. You're like this kind of quiet force multiplier in the community. But the biggest thing that y'all do, and we'll talk about that one first, your food pantry.
Yeah.
So tell us about the food pantry. How does that work?
Yeah, so the food pantry, probably more people are familiar with that, because our organization doesn't have a centralized location. But we have supported the food pantry for just a couple decades, and it's over there in the buildings next to Bojangles.
Okay.
So it's pretty well what you would think. If you're hungry, come to the food pantry. We've got food that's available. The food pantry, we help guide the budget, make sure they have the resources if they're low on certain items. For members of the Ministerial Association, we'll send out letters and say, hey, we need X number of bottles of pancake syrup. Or, when we get closer to holidays, boxes of stuffing or, different things like that. We just want to make sure that people have food to eat.
And if I go there, this service is for anyone in the community. Mm-hmm. If I go there, I don't have to tell you what church I go to. I can just come up and be like, I'm hungry. I need some food, and they're there to help you out.
Yeah, we don't even ask if you're a believer.
Okay.
Because my understanding is that other religions eat too.
Okay, I gotcha. Too true. And it's for anybody, right? So if I just happen to have a rough month, inflation, we're not going to talk about that today. Blake would be here all day. But inflation the last couple of years has been ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so if people are like, man, I got to choose, and this month, what am I going to not pay for? I could come see you and be like, can I get a little bit of help with my food? Or if I'm the kind of person that really is just struggling right now, and I have to come see you once a month for a little bit of augmentation in my food, that's not a problem either.
No, and actually, let me speak especially to a believer. Bible says that you are supposed to bear one another's burdens. Sometimes we're a lot better at bearing somebody else's burdens than we are asking for somebody to help bear ours. Don't let that get in the way. If you're hungry, that is what it's for.
Okay, and so I want to talk about how your group is made up because you're as the ministerial group of Havelock. We have a lot of churches in Havelock, and there's quite a few. And I know that they all want to do good things. I've never worked with a church or talked to a church that doesn't want to do good things in their community.
Good.
So the ones that, okay, so I'm going to start with this question. Is every church in Havelock a member of your ministerial association? Is that how it works?
I would love it if that's how it works. No. That is not the case, though.
Okay, so it's completely voluntary for churches to join or not join. Well, what is the responsibility? Like if a church does want to join?
Yeah, there's a couple ways that you can be involved, but even to be honest with you, we recently shifted things. It used to be you had to pay dues in order to be a member of it, but we just didn't want you to have to pay dues in order to vote. It's sort of like you have to pay to vote, right? And so really we meet once a month. most of the year, take a little bit of time off with the holidays, but we meet once a month to try to talk about the food pantry, make sure it's going well, talk about local initiatives and different ideas of how we can work together, because there's churches of all different sizes all around Havelock and the surrounding areas, but no one church can take care of everything by themselves.
I was thinking about that while you were saying it, because you've got churches that, I think they're literal churches in Havelock with maybe 20 parishioners.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got churches with 100 or more parishioners. And so this is a way for all of them to come together to pool resources to do good things in the community.
Yeah.
And there's no obligation, I would assume, either, right? So if I come for 6 or 8 months and I'm like, this isn't really a fit for me.
Sure.
And, with turnover in Havelock with the Marine Corps, we got, parishioners change every few years.
Who you telling, man?
Right? Leadership changes.
So, man, yeah, sometimes we fall in love with somebody in our church, and 2-3 years, they're like, okay, we're off to San Diego.
So is there a chance maybe the churches themselves may not even know the opportunities that the Ministerial Association provides?
For sure. Yeah. Because again, we don't have a centralized location. When we meet every month, we take turns hosting, so we'll just meet at different people's churches, which I personally love because I love being able to see where other people fellowship and worship. I don't get a chance to hop around and see how other people worship. I'm busy on Sunday mornings.
Okay.
So we hop around different locations. But yeah, it's a great way to be involved and to know what's happening in the community.
And so if you're looking to help in a bigger perspective and you're not a part of the Ministerial Association, they can get a hold of you guys. And I'm going to go ahead and say now, we'll probably say it again. We're going to talk about a lot of things, where the food pantry is. We're going to talk about the gathering place. We're going to talk about all kinds of opportunities. We'll put all that information in the comments, so you don't need to freeze frame. You don't need to pull out a pen and paper right now and start trying to jot it down. We'll put it all in the comments so you can have that information.
That's great.
But there's a way they can contact you if they want to join, right?
Oh, absolutely. And we would love it. Yeah, we would love it.
And so what are some other things y'all do? Because we have groups that come to the city and help people with utility bills, all kinds of different help with deposits on getting an account turned on. Do you guys do stuff like that? And if so, what does that look like?
Yeah, the main area that we're able to help with, of course, we're not able to help everywhere, but when there is an opportunity, we want to do it well. We're able to help with electricity and power bills.
Okay.
So similar to, you said, hey, if you're hungry, so you don't have to be a believer, be a member of a church. It's a little bit more restricted. You can't go quite as often to get the power bill paid for or contributed towards. There are some regulations, things like twice a year or something like that. But we partner with Carteret Craven Electric Co-op, and we've done this, for several years. They give us, a good chunk of money for grants that can only be used for power.
Okay.
But what's really great about this, I want to say this, it's provided from CCEC, but whereas it used to be only for CCEC customers, now it's for any power source. So if you happen to have a different electric provider, but you're here in the Havelock Cherry Point area, you qualify. You'd be somebody. If you happen to have one of those, I think they're cool. Those wood stoves that kind of heat the whole house. To be honest, they heat a house differently than AC does. But if that's what it is, sometimes you need propane or you need wood. So those funds can be used towards that too.
Okay.
Yeah, but there's a process.
Okay, and so it's interesting to know it could be any power server as well, because in Havelock we have 3. We've got Carter Craven Electric, New Bern Electric, and Duke Power. And so if I'm on Duke Power, I can still come access that grant with you.
Absolutely.
And it's not that crazy to say a couple times a year. We've seen that policy. RCS out of New Bern, they've got a similar policy. If they help somebody, they have restrictions on how many times a year. The goal is to be a little bit of a buoyancy. You're trying to help somebody who's struggling through a hard time, not become someone's automatic bill pay system.
Of course, yeah.
And help people when they need that to kind of get back on their feet. What about if you're on the other side of that coin and you're doing great in life and you want to help, but maybe you don't attend a church. Maybe you want to just volunteer at the food pantry, or I want to just give some money to the ministerial group. Do you guys accept money, donations, things like that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the Ministerial Association, it's cool because it's comprised of pastors, many of which are churches, are nonprofits, but the organization itself is also a nonprofit. And so you could absolutely give towards there because we have been able to help people in other situations outside of the realm of electricity or the food pantry before. If you do go to a church, though, if I would just say, hey, when you go to church on Sunday, ask your pastor, hey, are we a member of the Ministerial Association? And if not, give them this video. The link is in the comments. We would love to partner with you to do more than we can do on our own.
I feel like there's a huge advantage in networking. And just to use an example from the last couple of weeks, where it wasn't even the Ministerial Association, but we had a utility client that was in a really rough spot, and you were able to work with some folks that are a part of the Ministerial Association that could all come together to help them out of that bad spot.
Yeah.
And so I assume y'all do that. I mean, as churches, you must get hundreds of requests.
Yeah.
I mean, and they probably range from everything from a utility bill to my roof is leaking. I mean, so you guys come together to help people with that outside of Ministerial, but the network kind of helps build that, or?
Yeah, because so when we were able to help with the situation you're talking about, it didn't come from the funds of the Ministerial Association, but they were relationships that I probably wouldn't have had if it wasn't for the Ministerial Association. So just talking to ministers who talk to their congregants, and they have it on their heart to help people, especially, I mean, we just came out of the Christmas season. And so a lot of people are still trying to rebound, and yeah, a lot of people are kind of waking up to the idea that, maybe inflation is a little bit worse than it's been. I mean, so we were able to just send out that message, and not everybody was able to do something, and certainly not everybody who did something was able to do the same amount, but together we were able to take care of it. And it would have been a heavy load for any church around here to do, but together we were able to do it.
Absolutely. And I think every community benefits from good groups coming together. It doesn't matter if they're churches, or it doesn't matter if they're whatever kind of nonprofits they are. But I've noticed in Havelock over the years, especially because we're in this weird sort of spot where we're not really tiny,
right, but
we're also not, we don't have some neighborhood that's full of wealth that's giving massive. We're in this weird in-between spot. And I feel like every successful venture in Havelock that I can think of for the last couple of decades is when groups come together to do something bigger than just they can do by themselves.
Yeah. Unfortunately, churches don't always play well with each other. And I don't know if it's just, I'm new to being the lead pastor. I've been a lead pastor for 3 years, been in the same church for a couple decades, but I've noticed that sometimes maybe it's just because, hey, we've got some people here that used to go to your church, or some people that used to go to church goes to yours, and maybe sometimes it feels weird. I think sometimes pastors feel competition, when they wonder, but I think it's important to just remember we're all part of the same kingdom. And so we're supposed to be serving the same God, the same purposes, the same people that are made in his image, which is all people. And so to come together, I see no real drawback to it. I mean, what does it harm you to honor somebody else? What does it harm you to work together with somebody else, And
here's what I think is amazing about that too. When you look at, I say a legacy, but a legacy that people didn't even know existed. Y'all have been doing the food pantry for a few decades.
Yeah.
And I would guarantee there are people that have been to the food pantry either to volunteer, to drop off food, to pick up food, that had no idea that there was even a Ministerial Association behind that.
Oh, sure.
Because why would you?
Well, it's not really the point of it. It's not something we're trying to promote and have everybody become, like sub-members. It's not a pyramid scheme, It's just something where there's hungry people,
And so food pantry, you guys are focused hard on that and have been. You also can help people with a utility bill with regards to electricity, heating their house, that sort of thing. And then do you guys do anything at all with housing? What if somebody comes to you and they're like, man, I got evicted, or I know I'm going to be out of a house. What do you guys do?
It's one of the harder areas. We really don't have a lot. I'm glad that you asked, because sometimes people will ask about that, a deposit, mortgage, rent assistance, things like that. There are organizations and there are companies that work on things like that, but it's not something we can really do. But I would also say we're also partnered with a few other local ministries that aren't churches, the Gathering Place, which we'll talk about in a second, but also like the Pregnancy Resource Center. And so a lot of times if there's somebody with a need, we're able to point them maybe to the Resource Center or to get a hot meal or to other things. Rent is one of those areas. It's harder for most churches to be able to run that through the benevolence funds.
Sure. Well, the Gathering Place is one place we definitely wanted to talk about today. That did kind of start out of your church, or a person from your church that started that. And there's been some change recently. What's going on with the Gathering Place? And that is another spot, by the way, I guess, where anybody can go in and get a meal. Sure. There's no income requirement. There's no faith requirement. You can just get a hot meal.
Oh, yeah. No, there's been a lot of questions about that. So there's a change in some leadership of it, but it wasn't like a I don't know, hostile takeover of a soup kitchen or anything like that.
Right.
No, the lady who started it, she's a great friend of mine. And so she started it, ran it for a season. The season shifted. And so we were able to find somebody to take on that leadership role, Mr. Joe Tonelli. And so he was a cook in the last season of the Gathering Place. Now he's serving as the board president.
Okay.
We've done one hot meal since, which was around the time of Christmas. And I'm just to tell y'all, I mean, I had a great meal there. I mean, I ate some of the food while I was there. I mean, I'm a sucker for stuffing and gravy. So if you're going to have that, I'm going to show up. But what's really exciting is because we had to get some things in order, make sure we're setting it up the right way. I'm new to the leadership of the Gathering Place. I'm on the board. But we are starting to do a hot meal once a week on Thursdays. February 6th is the first date.
Okay.
And then every Thursday following that. Now, our hope is also to get to at least 2 meals a week, which we were doing previously, but we do need help.
Yeah. Well, it's a lot of physical effort, but you've got a lot of logistics that have to go to that. You got to get the food.
Yes. Yeah.
You got to procure everything you need. And people can come in and eat, but they also can come in and get a plate to go. Didn't they used to do that too?
Yeah.
Or?
No, we still do that.
Still do that?
Which, as far as I understand, is fairly unique amongst soup kitchens and ministries like that. A lot of them, they'll say, no, if you need this. When I was there, I met a gentleman who showed up and he said there's about 8 people that live down, I think he said near Harlow, and they're not going to travel up this way, but they're hungry. And he walked out with, 10 boxes. And he just went and he handed them out to people. And here's the thing. I mean, every so often is somebody going to get an extra meal and say it's for somebody and take it home? Sure. But you know what I bet they're going to do with it? I bet they're going to eat it.
Right.
That's kind of the whole point of the soup kitchen. And so we could use food donations. We could use monetary donations if you can't go shopping for it or whatever. And we could really use some people to help serve. It's a pretty small kitchen itself, so we don't need a lot every time. But if everybody would, volunteer once a month or, once every other month, we could probably fill it up pretty great.
That's what I was about to ask you next was I'm sure you needed some people. So if we'll put that in the comments as well, who they can contact if they think they want to do that. But whether you are hungry and you want to eat or you just want to come serve, there's lots of ways to do that with your time, your treasure, or your talent.
Absolutely. And let me just say this too. I mean, we want them to have healthy meal. I mean, really, that's the whole vision that, Heather had as she started the Gathering Place. Wants it to be really good, healthy meal. And on top of that, though, we want it to be really tasty and really enjoyable. So every so often we've had ladies that are just so kind and generous to make like a really nice dessert, cinnamon rolls, stuff like that. It could be just as simple as, well, I love to bake. And I could bake a couple dozen of these or whatever it is and just drop it off. And so we'll give them a meal, but we'll also give them a nice dessert. There's a lot of ways that you really could be involved in, and those links will be in the comments too.
I got you. I remember when Heather first kicked that off, she came and met with us at the city just to talk about what she was doing.
Of course.
And kind of just spread the word. Yeah. And she told some of our fellas that were out in the field every day at Public Works, Public Utilities guys. And I know for the first few weeks and probably for a while after that, they were swinging in and getting lunch some days because they were like, man, this is delicious. And she was like, I want to feed everybody. I don't care who you are. Come in and eat. There's no, the goal is because there's an opportunity to build community there.
Yes.
Kind of like we talked about, if you're a part of the ministerial group, you can build a network and help more people. But there's a value in just sitting at that table for an hour and eating your lunch in that room instead of at Bojangles or Musashi or Patron or whatever your favorite is in Havelock.
Yeah.
What else do we need to let the community know about that you're working on, either through the Ministerial Association or otherwise, before we wrap up today, Blake? Anything you can think of we haven't covered? We've covered a good bit, but is there anything else you can think of?
I think really just the thing that I would really throw out there is this is really just a time to try to work together. It really is. At my own church, we recently had kind of what we call the ministry roundtable. We just had people come in and talk about ideas of what they want to accomplish at Liberty. And a lot of times I know that there are things that are in the hearts of other ministries and ministers that maybe they'd love to do it, but they just don't know how to. Something a lot of us have gotten involved in, I guess I'll throw this out here real quick. We've gotten involved with an organization called Jumpstart Prison Ministries. And so they've been doing prison ministry out there in Carteret County, and they're getting ready to launch in Pamlico. But we've been able to send that information out amongst churches. We didn't know how to start a prison ministry from scratch, but there was an organization that knew how. And so what we found when we did our roundtable was some people had an idea but didn't know how to do it, but there were other people in the room that had experience with it or knew people that were good resources to help. And I share all of that just to say, if we could get the ministers or the local churches represented to come together, we could probably help accomplish some of what the vision is that the Lord's laid out for your congregation too. We just don't know it. We don't know what we don't know. And if you can't make the meetings that happen once a month, designate somebody that you trust from your church to represent you for when we get together. But we would love to have more participants.
Okay. So that's what's up today, Havelock, is you're hearing about this organization that has been around for a while.
Yeah.
That has been doing great things in the community. Whether you are somebody who needs a little bit of help, you can contact them and they'll do what they can to assist you. Or you guys, I'm sure, add on, you will point people in a direction. If you don't do something, you can say, oh, we don't do that, but...
Yes, but here's a direction. Here are some areas you could go for sure.
So look at them as a resource in your community, whether you need a little bit of help, or if you're the kind of person that likes to give a little bit of help. They've got a lot of opportunities, it sounds like, for you to come and help, whether you want to show up in person or just donate some items or some financial assistance. And like I tell our volunteer appreciation interview, I talk to our volunteers, and we have hundreds that come out because we have a lot of them on boards and stuff. And I tell them all how proud they should be about what they do, because I obviously believe service is very important, no matter how you choose to do it. That's why I chose to run for public office a long time ago, serve the community I grew up in. But I think if you are having a hard time, one of the best ways to get through that is
Oh, for sure.
And the Ministerial Association is an opportunity to do that. Doesn't matter where you go to church or if you don't go to church.
Absolutely.
They'd be looking to help you or receive your help. So thank y'all for tuning in with us today. Blake, thanks for coming.
Man, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Have a great day. Talk to you later.